So welcome. We're just, we heard that great bio, but we really, you've got so many amazing things. So we really just want to, I know you've got a video and some other things, but we really just want to know about you and how you got in the family business. And there's so many cool things that you guys do with just your history and Valentine's Day and you name it, you do it. So wanted to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, that would be great. I thought I would start and give a little bit of history about the company and what we've been doing. I do have a fun video to show, and then we can have more of a conversation and answer some of people's questions. Perfect. So I cannot seem to be sharing my screen. So I know that you guys have the copy of the slide. So if you guys can start and put up the first slide, and we'll just do it that way. That would be great. And I'll sort of give a background of the company and where we are.
That sounds great. We've got a great group of AV folks that have shuffled all day, so we're happy to be here.
Perfect. Well, I'm really honored to be here. As you guys know, that I went to SMU. So this time of year, I desperately miss the Dallas-Fort Worth weather. So it's a little colder up here. It's not too bad yet, but I miss being in Texas many years.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's a good place to be, but we didn't get to have the state fair, but everybody gets corny dogs at other places now. So we just got your PowerPoint up. So hopefully
it's perfect. Yes. Yeah. I'm not going to talk about 100 years of lessons. That took a really long time. So if you go to the next slide, though, I'm going to talk about this guy. So this is Billy. And I'm going to tell you a story about Billy. So Billy, when he was 41 years old, decided that he no longer wanted to be an insurance salesman. So he quit his job and he began his wild experiment in the restaurant business. He, at the time, this was 1921 in Wichita, Kansas, and he wanted the good people of Wichita, Kansas to be able to experience hamburger, which at the time was not something that a lot of people ate, but he felt like it was a really good product. It was great for families, and wanted to start a restaurant with this product. So he picked the name White Castle, White standing for purity and cleanliness, and Castle standing for permanence and strength. And he opened his first store in 1921. He had to borrow $700 from the bank. But fortunately, it went off very well and was very successful. He decided to sell the burgers for 5 cents. Because he wanted everybody to be able to afford them, not the well-to-do. He was able to pay the loan back in 90 days, which is really awesome. Mm-hmm. And from there, we have grown to about 370 locations across the Midwest and the East Coast. And we have a great retail business that I'll talk a little bit more about. But Billy really had three founding principles. And Billy was my great-grandfather, and he believed in executing flawlessly, taking care of your team members, and making sure that you give back to your communities. So in 1924, Billy started offering health insurance, which was something that wasn't really done in those times. And in 1928, he started to encourage retirement savings. So he was really focused on making sure that we were taking care of our team members. That's something that we are very focused on today, and will continue to be focused on for our next 100 years. We have some great, very low turnover in our industry and some amazing longevity numbers, which I can talk about. He also, in 1949, started our foundation, and we have always been very focused on giving back to the communities in which we operate. So those three things, executing flawless, focusing on team members, and focusing on community, are things that we continue to do today. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see that he was very focused on executing flawless. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that for just a few minutes. So he wanted to make sure that every person that came in, whether they came in into Minneapolis or to New York, had the same great slider experience, the same great burger, because that's what we sold for a really, really long time was hamburgers, cheeseburgers, fries, coffee, and pie. We sold those same 5 items for almost 40 or 50 years. And it wasn't really until the 60s that we went, in 1962, I think, that we went crazy and added a slice of cheese to one of our burgers. And that was our first sort of product development. When drive-thrus came around in the 1950s, we didn't actually add our drive-thrus until the 1980s. So we were a little bit behind on that trend as well. And so we've taken Billy's philosophy on executing flawlessly, taking care of team members and taking care of our communities, and added a focus on innovation. So if you go to the next slide, you will see that today, while we're still very much known for our original slider, and we wouldn't change our original slider, and there are still many, many, many customers that come in for original slider, we also have a great offering of other sliders, whether that's our chicken slider, our fish slider, our breakfast slider, even our impossible slider. So if you flip to the next page, this is just a write-up that we got. I won't read it to you. One thing that it says, though, is that this breakfast creation is everything that it wants to be: equal parts salt and sugar and just enough spice to sufficiently pique the average diner's interest. So we've gotten really good write-ups on a lot of our products that a lot of people don't know that we have. If you don't know that we have a great breakfast sandwich, which is a fresh cracked egg, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to make everybody hungry, but it is a great product. And if you go to the next one, we also have an impossible slider, which is a plant-based product. And a lot of people ask me, why would we introduce a plant-based product when we're known for hamburgers? And this really came out of one of our core tenets of always making sure that we're listening to customers. And so when you've been around for a really long time, we had many customers that grew up on White Castle, but for whatever reason, they had decided to become vegetarian, but they still wanted to have some semblance of White Castle. So they would come in and they would order what we called a cheese slider, which is where we would take the onions off the grill. There wasn't any meat. We would put it on one of our buns with a slice of cheese. And we felt like there were enough customers that were asking us for these cheese sliders that we could do something better. So about 8 or 9 years ago, we introduced a veggie slider. Shortly after that, we introduced a black bean slider. And so when the plant-based trend came around, it was a natural evolution for us to partner with Impossible Foods and introduce an impossible slider. And we got a lot of great press around it. But really for us, it's a pivot for our organization, making sure that we are focused on being a slider company, not necessarily a hamburger company. You can come in and you can get the original slider, hamburger, the way that we've always made it. But if you have other tastes or you have other people that are with you that want something different, we also have great products for them as well. And that led us into one of the other innovations that we did, which I know there were some questions about, is our retail products. So if you go to the next slide, we got into the retail business, which is selling hamburgers and cheeseburgers and other products into grocery stores about 25 years ago. And this was something that my father, who was CEO before me, really pushed us to get into. Because again, we had customers that would come in and they would order like 100 burgers and they wanted 10 for here, but then they wanted 90, what we called wrapped. So our team members would individually wrap each burger and put them in the box. And that wasn't our normal process. But when my father would talk to the customers and ask them what they were doing with the burgers, they would tell my dad that they were taking them home and putting them in the freezer. And then if you put them in this, and this was in the 80s, this newfangled thing called a microwave oven and heat it up for 20 seconds, it's really good. And that was sort of how the retail idea started. But I will tell you that my dad went out and tried to find partners for us to help us make this. And there were a lot of people that told him he was crazy, that customers would not want to buy restaurant products in grocery store aisles, which is ironic considering how many grocery store or restaurant products are in grocery store aisles now. So he was being very innovative at the time, 25 years ago. So that's how we got into the retail business. And the cool thing about all of this is we have our own bakeries and meat plants. We make all our own buns, all our own meat patties for both the restaurant product and the retail product. And we have 3 plants that make the retail product. So we're very vertically integrated as well, which is part of our focus on quality and consistency. So if you go to the next slide, this just shows some cool innovation that we do in packaging. You know, you can come in and you can order 1 burger, you can order 4 burgers, you can order 10 burgers, which is a sack. You can order 30 burgers, which is a case. We just introduced our new Crave Clutch, which is 20 burgers. You can even order 100 burgers. We have a crate, a Crave crate that we sell 100 burgers in. So being innovative, not only in the products, but also in the packaging and how we deliver those products to our customers is something that I think has helped keep us relevant over our almost 100 years of being in existence. So next slide. Some of the other fun things, I know some people may have seen a movie called Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. There's a fun story about that I can talk about. We were also on Undercover Boss. So again, ways that we as a smaller brand can get our name out there, because we have 370 locations. Many of the other competitors in our space franchise, and so they have thousands and thousands of locations. And so we're always looking for ways to be distinctive, to be unique, and to get our name out there in fun ways that highlight our brand in a very positive way. So if you go to the next slide, this is another way we partner with Autism Speaks. And so a lot of the writers from Autism Speaks, they do this thing called the Night of Too Many Stars, which is a fundraiser for autism. And those writers often write for SNL. And so oftentimes we end up in SNL. Sometimes I'm happy about that. Sometimes it makes me a little nervous, but they always portray us in a positive light. So that's one of the times that we ended up on SNL. So if you go to the next one. Okay, so the last thing that I want to talk about is just our passionate belief that we always want to continue to celebrate our customers. And so we do lots of things. I'm going to highlight a couple of them. So Valentine's Day, you mentioned Valentine's Day. So Valentine's Day is a big deal at White Castle. Under normal circumstances, you would need to make a reservation to come to White Castle for Valentine's Day. And this started again in one castle with one general manager who had a couple that she knew had either met at White Castle or had their first date. And Valentine's Day, they weren't going to be able to go out to a really expensive restaurant. So she said, well, why don't you come here? And so when they showed up, she had a little table reserved for them with a little reserved sign, a tablecloth, some flowers, and some menus. And she waited on them, which is not our typical service style. And that grew. The customers were so happy with it. And there were other customers in the restaurant that wanted that same service. So the next year, she did that in all of her tables on Valentine's Day. And the next year, we did it in all the castles in Minneapolis. The next year, we did it in all the castles across the company. And we've been doing this for like the last 15 years. So last year, we partnered with Open Table, and we actually took 36,000 reservations for Valentine's Day, which is really a lot of fun, and a way that we can celebrate people, being with their friends and family and their loved ones, and doing it in a fun environment. And so this picture shows a dining room of a White Castle, and the picture of the couple, they actually got married at White Castle, and you can see the gazebo sort of in the background. That's actually made of White Castle boxes. Our service guys made that for them to get married under. So that was a lot of fun. So Valentine's Day is a big deal at White Castle. If you go to the next slide. And so this year we decided to do something different because we wanted to have a way for our retail customers to experience White Castle. So normally you need to go to a castle in one of our cities in the Midwest or the East Coast to be able to experience White Castle. But this year, or this February, right before COVID hit, we had a pop-up in an HEB parking lot in San Antonio, Texas. So very close to you guys. And so it was a lot of fun. It was our first venture into doing a pop-up. If you go to the next slide, you can see that we had a mariachi band, and we had lots of tables in there, and just had a lot of customers who either had grown up on White Castle and had moved to San Antonio, or maybe had never had White Castle and wanted to come try it. So again, we took reservations on Open Table and had a great experience for customers that didn't live in one of our restaurant markets. And so if you go to the next slide, we actually had the gentleman on the right is a Cravers Hall of Famer. You can see his really big White Castle tattoo. I'll talk a little bit more about the Cravers Hall of Fame in a second, but the other picture is a picture of a wedding proposal, a marriage proposal that happened at our pop-up at Valentine's Day and the HEB parking lot. So that was super cool. We were very excited about that when the customer said that he was going to pop the question to his girlfriend. So that was lots of fun. So if you go to the next one. Okay, so that's Valentine's Day. So the other thing that I'm going to talk about is our Cravers Hall of Fame. And I'm going to tell you a story about one of our cravers. So I was visiting our new store in Shanghai, China, and I'm halfway around the world, and I walk into the store in Shanghai, China, and the store in particular has a lot of expats. So it has a lot of people that are living in Shanghai but not Chinese. and a gentleman walks in with a white t-shirt that says White Castle on it. And it's from one of our Vegas locations. So I was like, I wonder what this guy's about. So we start talking, and I find out that his name is Walter. And Walter lives in LA. He actually grew up in the East Coast, but he lives in LA. And he gets in a plane and flies to Vegas and gets a bunch of Crave cases, because we have castles in Vegas. That's the closest one to Los Angeles. And then he flies back. And we told him that he should submit his story to our Cravers Hall of Fame. And our Cravers Hall of Fame, every year we ask consumers to send their stories in. We pick 10 out of usually 1,000. And Walter's was picked. And so Walter is in this picture with his other 10 inductees for the Cravers Hall of Fame celebration. And if you go to the next slide, this is a motorcycle bike that Walter designed for White Castle. And the picture doesn't really do it justice. But I think it was actually made at Sturgis not Sturgis, but Stoker's in Texas. But you can sort of see the spokes on the wheel. Those are actually French fries. They're made to look like French fries. And the saddlebags fit a Crave case, fit 30 hamburgers. And so when you are passionate about your customers and celebrating your customers, they will do amazing things to honor your brand and to engage with your brand. And this is one example. And if you go to the next slide, this is a picture, and we're going to show a video here in just a little bit, of two brothers, Mark and Todd Foster, who were inducted into our Cravers Hall of Fame in 2020 in February. And they decided to run the Nashville Marathon and do it in a way to honor White Castle and incorporate White Castle. So if you want to go ahead and play the video, it's a short little video that they made before they were getting ready to go take off and run the Nashville Marathon.
Good morning. Hey, White Castle. We're going to run the full Nashville Marathon. Look what we're going to give away to those good customers. Some hot, steamers in the house.
How about this?
Look at
100.
this.
100.
Look at this. We even have cheese, everybody. We're going to run 26 miles. And what's our fuel? What you talking about, Willis? White Castle.
Y'all be good. I'm just lifting weights of goodness. Thank you, White Castle.
That still makes me laugh every time I watch it. I mean, we had nothing to do with it. This was their idea. They wanted to borrow a uniform from us and have burgers, and they're identical twins, and it was great. So they actually ran the Nashville Marathon in a khakis, a button-down shirt, and a White Castle uniform carrying White Castles. So again, it just goes to show that, all of the work that we've done over the last 100 years to really embrace our customers and celebrate them pays back in droves when they want to continue to incorporate your brand in their everyday milestones and some of their amazing milestones, like running a marathon. So that's a little bit about White Castle, and I know that there's lots of other questions that we can move on to, Janice, if you want to ask away.
Thank you, Lisa. I love that. I love the video, and I especially love the PowerPoint. It kind of gets a flavor and just kind of your culture, which is so amazing. I think that's one thing we picked up on just in our initial meeting, was how infectious you are and as a leader. But, a couple of questions came in, and they're not in any particular order. But the biggest one I think everybody wants to know is, it's a family-owned business, which we know, but how did you work yourself up to, as a woman in the field, generations before you, but how did you work yourself up to this amazing position as CEO?
Yeah. So when I was growing up, I worked in the business a little bit. I worked in the marketing department, and I did a couple of stints in the office. But I really didn't think I wanted to be in the family business. So when I went to SMU in Dallas, I really never thought I'd come back to Ohio. And I got my degree at SMU in business, marketing, and finance. And so I actually worked for a computer supplies distributor in Dallas that isn't around anymore. But it was a great experience for me because I really wanted to go out and sort of prove to myself more than anybody else that I could get a job, that I could get promoted, that I could do lots of different things. Actually, at that job, also thought I was just going to get fired one day for a mistake that I made. But it's good from a family business standpoint for me to have had that outside experience, and I have some other outside experience because I know what is on the other side. I know that the grass is greener in some ways, but not greener in the other. And so that was really important for me to be able to go and do my own thing, prove my own worth to myself before I came back to work at the family business. And so I worked there for about 5 years, and then I moved home because White Castle had a opening that was a marketing manager, which was the same job that I was doing at Daisy Tech. So our rules as a family business is there has to be a job open. You have to be qualified to come and work at the family business, and you need to go have some outside experience. So I transitioned and moved back home in January after living in Dallas for 9 years and being used to the warm weather. I definitely had some questions about my sanity in January in Ohio. And so I worked in the marketing department here at White Castle for a couple of years, and then I left again and went and got my MBA at Ohio State. And during that time, I also worked for Hewlett Packard during my internship and did a European channel strategy for them. So I actually got to go live in Boise, Idaho for the summer and was in Berlin, Germany, where their European marketing center was. So I did that for a summer. And then when I was getting ready to graduate from my MBA program, I thought that I would go into consulting. That was what my degree was in consulting and operations. And I had several offers, and I sat down with my father to sort of review the offers and talk to him about it. And we ended up deciding that I could come back, or I should come back to White Castle and go into operations. And because that was the part of the business, that's the heart of the business. That's where I wanted to get some experience. And so I ended up doing that. And I've been back 20 years and love it. And I've just sort of worked my way up from that position to the role that I'm in. So I've been CEO since 2015 and president since 2013. And the fortunate thing is, as you know, it's, well, everybody tells you, you're doing great. It really is a team effort. I have a fabulous team, and they are the ones that support me and support the company and help us make sure that we're heading in the right direction, that our culture is moving the way that we want it to and embracing the values that we want to. And so that's really, I think, definitely a huge part of my success.
I love that family rule where you have to have an opening, you have to be qualified, because it's not always that way. But how do you mentioned all the different hats and things that you're doing, but how do you balance that? Because I understand from reading a little bit about you that you've got a large family, you've got your amazing mother is what I hear, which is the greatest compliment. So how do you balance all that?
Yeah, so I feel very fortunate. I have a very supportive spouse, and a lot of people say, oh, he must stay home. No, he doesn't stay home. He is actually a CEO of his family business. Wow. And so he runs that business, and I have 4 children. The youngest is 10 and the oldest is 16. And so it's a very busy household, but I feel fortunate to have a very supportive spouse who helps make sure that one of us is covering when we need to, this whole COVID thing. And I feel very fortunate that I'm able to also bring help in, but it is a challenge for working parents to juggle, okay, who's going to help the kids with school today? My kids are on hybrid, and so they're at school 2 to 3 days, but then they're home 2 or 3 days. And one of us needs to be there to help them to get their schoolwork done and make sure that they're staying on task, et cetera, et cetera. So it's definitely, COVID has made it much more challenging for working parents to manage not only doing their job, but also being the parents and taking care of their kids and helping them with schoolwork. So it's never an easy juggle. I think, everybody needs to find what gives them some of their me time. For me, that's running. I ran this morning, and that's something that I continue to be able to do, and making sure that we're taking time away and taking vacations. I know some people will say, well, I'm not taking vacation. I'm a firm believer that everybody should be taking their vacations and trying to unplug as much as possible while they're on vacation so that they can focus on the other aspects of their life. But also having hobbies. I'm trying to learn Spanish because I would love to be able to have conversations with our team members who speak Spanish in the East Coast. So, you know, just trying to find some stuff that give you fulfillment and give you sanity.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned COVID, and I know that was extremely stressful, especially for all of our the food industry. But how, you know, our theme this year really is about resiliency, and we have a lot of women that joined today because they wanted to hear your story. They knew you guys struggled during the restaurant shutdowns and all of that. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So yes, that was definitely very stressful. You know, beginning of March, mid-March, our governor shut down restaurants in Ohio, and that sort of created a ripple effect with other governors in the Midwest and the East Coast shutting down restaurants. Fortunately, we were able to keep drive-thrus open. So we had some business, but our business was substantially impacted by these restrictions. And we obviously had to figure out, you know, every day what we needed to do to keep as many people employed as possible. That was our main focus. As I said earlier, we have many team members who have worked for us for a long time. Our average tenure for our general manager is 21 years. And we have team members that have worked for us for 20, 30, 40 years. And so it was really important to us to try to keep as many people employed during this time frame as possible. But we obviously also had to make financial adjustments to the company to make sure that we stayed viable. And so that was really difficult to weather. Fortunately, you know, that lasted, you know, 6 weeks, 2 months, and then some of the restrictions got a little bit lighter. And so things looked a little bit better. And right now it's better. Our drive-thrus have been really very helpful to us. People feel comfortable coming to a restaurant and going through the drive-thru. And so that has been a saving grace for us. But we continue to make sure that we're focused on our team member safety, giving them all the PPE that they need, you know, masks, partitions. We actually have not reopened our dining rooms for sit-down service. You can come in, you can get takeout, but you can't sit in our restaurants. Because we want to continue to make sure that we are providing an environment that our team members feel safe in. And so it's something that we've been proactive about. As other restaurants have opened their dining rooms, we have chosen not to.
We had a lot of fun questions come in about you. They want to know, what's your favorite White Castle food item? Do you eat at your restaurant or?
Oh gosh, yes. I was in, let's see, you know, I've been to several of the regions, but my favorite and the item that usually gives me away that I'm, you know, in the drive-thru is a double cheeseburger, bottoms up with extra pickle and ketchup. So, yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
We all took a vote in the room here, and we think you need to open a pop-up in Fort Worth for sure.
I still have college roommates that live in Dallas that are like, really?
Yeah.
Here?
SMU and tell them we need it here. So.
Yes.
Another last question, and I know our time is running out, but what is one piece of advice you would give a woman, or it could really be a man too, just about, you know, when you're first getting into leadership roles? Do you have anything from your chair with all you've been through?
I have two pieces of advice. One, it could be a man or a woman, but then I do have some for just women. So the first one it's kind of a mantra that I have always tried to live by, and I think it's even more important in today's, you know, political environment, is to assume positive intent in any situation that you are encountering, and really think about analyzing a situation. And if you assume positive intent of the other party, does that change the situation and your reaction to that situation? Because things get escalated not based off of reason, but based off of emotion. And if we can assume a positive intent, that sometimes will allow us to look at situations more rationally. And the advice that I tell women is really two, and it's around the little voice in your head. Some women, the little voice in their head is telling them great things. My little voice in my head often tells me that I'm not good enough, I'm not qualified, I'm not doing this right, I'm an imposter, all of those types.
We heard that previously from another speaker too, about the imposter syndrome.
Right. And in interactions that I have with men, I don't think that men suffer from the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And so that is something that I tell women is you cannot give more weight to the little voice in your head than the other voices outside of your head that are telling you that you're doing a good job, that you're achieving your goals, that you're a valued member of the team. All of those other voices that we may discount more and place more emphasis on the little voice in our head that's telling me we're not as good. I think you just need to make sure that they're very balanced and that the little voice in your head is not overweighting the voices outside that are telling you you're doing a great job. And again, I don't think men have that little voice in their head, or if they do, it doesn't carry more weight to them than other voices.
That is really good advice. It really is. Do we have time for one more question?
Yeah.
Okay, one more. Last, but definitely not least, but it's a fun question that everybody asks. Do you think any of the children, because you've got 4 fantastic children, are going to follow, continue the legacy of the family owned? Because it's so cool how your great grandfather and all of your dad. So just love to hear about that.
It is. And, it's not just my dad and my grandfather. So I feel very fortunate because I have 9 family members that actually work in the business. So I have cousins and siblings that work in the business, and they all have children too. So, I'm the 4th generation, and all of our children are the 5th generation. And every year we get the family together so that the 5th generation can have exposure to the business and interactions with each other, because at some point, they're going to be the ones that are hopefully running the company. I do believe that the way that my father and my aunts and uncles raised all of us was, you really should go and follow your passion. And if your passion aligns with White Castle and we have a job opening for you, that's great. But first and foremost, you should follow your passion, because you want people in the family business, especially family members, to be there because they love the brand and they would do anything for the brand, not because they think it's the only place that they can work. And so my hope is that one of my 4 kids or one of my cousins' children or my siblings' children find a passion in White Castle and want to work in the business, but that'll be up to them. And if none of them do, then we'll figure out what we're going to do. But hopefully there's like 30 of them. So hopefully a couple of them want to be in the business, but we'll just have to wait and see where their passions take them.
That's great. Well, today has been awesome. Seriously, I cannot tell you how much we've really enjoyed having you here. It's just such an honor. You're an incredible leader, an incredible mentor to so many people. So we're very grateful that you're here. So
thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here.
We have a place for you, so come over. We're ready for you.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right, thank you.
I appreciate your time today.